Hello, everybody. I'm Olivia Panay, and welcome to On the Line, presented by Tracksmith. Today is Tuesday, May 23rd. I know it's just me at the desk, but Corey and Ashley are going to be joining me in just a moment. Tracksmith is an independent running brand inspired by a deep love of the sport. After years of crafting running apparel from best-in-class materials and timeless silhouettes, they have made their first foray into footwear, which we will be talking about in a little moment. Inspired by running on soft and springy and responsive natural surfaces, you can check out the new Elliott Runner today at tracksmith.com. And as you can see my background, live and learn. I'm super excited to kick off this show with a special segment. We have someone calling in from Austria, so help me to welcome Anna Hall to our show. Anna is the 2022 bronze medalist in the heptathlon, and you guys, during the indoor season, she broke the American record and finished with the second best score in history with 5,004 points in the pentathlon. The queen is here, is what I've written down. So Anna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Anna, I know you're in Austria right now, and we talked a little bit before the show. Talk to me about the jet lag. How are you feeling? And have you had a chance to just kind of explore the area that you're in right now?
Yeah, I got in yesterday and I landed at like 9:30 a.m. And so they were like, stay up, like do not go to bed before 8 p.m. So it was a long day of lots of caffeine and trying to stay awake, but we made it. So I'm feeling a little bit better each day, and I have had a chance to explore. I'm in Gotzi's for a heptathlon I'm doing this weekend, and so I've been walking around and trying out their little bakeries and stuff. So yeah, it's been really fun to explore here.
Ooh, that's awesome. Good for you. And I feel like I have you down as like the absolute superhero. And I feel like so many high school athletes feel the same way that I do. So, pretty much, how did you get started in track and field? Just kind of walk us through the beginning of your journey.
Yeah, I started track when I was like 7, so I'm an age grouper. I did play like a lot of sports growing up, like track, basketball, volleyball, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, swimming, like everything. And yeah, so I just started doing track in the summers with like a USATF club and kept doing it. And it wasn't until high school that I decided right about when I decided I wanted to do the multi, I was like, okay, maybe I should just focus on track because I'm going to be training for 7 events. So yeah, that was kind of the journey, but it was just something I fell in love with young because I was around it. My older sisters were participating too. So yeah.
Goodness, you've done it all since the beginning. You've done everything in track and everything, any sport you can name, pretty much Anna Hall has done it. So, do you have a specific memory that you can reflect back on when you first began competing in track and field?
Um, I do have a few. I remember when I was like 7, I used to like win everything because nobody does track when they're 7. And so like there'd be like two people in the 1500, and I remember I was so fun because I was just like, oh, I just like really like winning. And then I started to get a little bit older and more people started running track and I started to lose. So I think that's kind of like, I don't know, that's like my first memory of when I was like, oh, okay, like this is like a serious sport, kind of like you have to practice to do well and so on. Because until then, it had just been, there was never anyone in the meet. So I was always just like, oh, whatever. So yeah, that's probably my first memory, I guess.
That is so awesome. So like I mentioned before, we have people that submit questions, and the very first question I feel like kind of ties everything together what you're talking about, and this is from Area Yellow, and they ask, how does one balance life work specifically in sports in a healthy way? Because I feel like you do it all. So how do you find the balance between training, doing all the things that you love even outside of track? How do you just manage it all?
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of going with the flow. I mean, I don't have one perfect formula, but for me, the biggest thing has always been just to keep sports fun because when track is fun, then I feel like I have my like social hour at the track. It's not a have to, it's a get to, and
Yeah.
I'm enjoying practice and hanging out with my teammates and making funny jokes with my coaches. And I feel like that makes it feel less like work and more like play. And then just really being on top of things outside of practice and getting ahead of time management. That was like a huge thing that college teaches, I think, almost every student athlete. Like you have to learn it to get through. And so just being productive with my time so that I can still have time maybe after practice to set aside just to, watch Netflix and lie down and just be a lazy college kid. So yeah.
Now, speaking of practice, I feel like if Coach Holloway was here, he would describe you as a hard worker, focused, determined, someone that loves to have fun. I remember hearing, I believe it was after the NCAA championships last year, you had a post-race interview, and you just talked about how you had to sit down with your coaches to talk about adjustments that you had to make because you were doing the double, you were doing the multis. On top of that, you finished second in the 400-meter hurdles. So what were practices like for you? I have to know.
Practice is really hard. It's very intense, but like I said, it's fun. So like the conversation and things are lighthearted, but the workouts are brutal. And yeah, I mean, going into NCAA's last year, he told me, he was like, if you want to try this double, like we need to practice this rest. And so I forget what the time between the 400 hurdles and the 800 was, but I would do like 400 hurdle workout or like a broken quarter or something really hard, and then take that exact amount of rest and then run a broken 800. And he wanted to see that I could handle it. And obviously it felt a lot worse in the meet down the road, but we're just really intentional about the way that we set up workouts. And so if there's something I want to accomplish, whether it's a record or a time in a certain event, I'm open about that with my coaches. And I say, this is what I want to do. And then they kind of write the workouts to set us up for that. So yeah, that's kind of how we go about it.
That's amazing. I love how you have that open relationship with your coaches and just the ability to do that, because I feel like what you have accomplished is just absolutely out of this world. I want to kind of shift now into the indoor season. We had another individual send in a question. I kind of want to know the answer to this. This is from Martin _2OP. How does it feel to be a world champion? How does that make you feel? Just kind of now that it's kind of simmered in a little bit too.
Well, I was bronze, so not quite
Yeah.
a world champ yet. But honestly, going into that meet, I had no idea if I could medal or finish that high. And I honestly surprised myself. I think it surprised some other people too. And so it did take a while for that to set in. And then in the fall, I was like, oh, okay, like people are going to expect like good things from me now. And so I kind of had to deal with that of where I was like, there's this new level of expectation of like, okay, you've been there before, you've gotten a medal before, like now the bar's being raised again. So yeah, I mean, was honestly like the best moment in the world to like win that medal. And then beyond there, it's kind of just set the tone of like, okay, we're just getting started, and how can we improve and move forward from here?
Yeah. Now, there's one athlete I want to mention really quickly. Her name is Jaciana Gerald Holt. And right now, she's currently a sophomore in high school in the state of Washington. She was actually at the indoor championships, and she's actually was a world U20. She competed in the world U20 championships in the heptathlon and represented Team USA last summer in Colombia. And I had a moment to talk with her earlier this year, and she just would rave about you. And she talked about how she was actually at the USA Track and Field indoor championships. She was competing in the high jump, and she just remembers like you doubling in the pent and then your performance in the 400 meters. And she remembers taking notes and just like observing you and watching you and she's like, I want to learn from the best, so I'm just going to follow in Anna Hall's footsteps, essentially. So how does that make you feel, just knowing like you're inspiring the future of track and field, especially at that high school level as well?
Wow. That means a lot to me. And it's kind of weird hearing that, honestly, because that used to be me. Like I remember going to USA champs in high school, and I was watching the multi and taking notes with my coach and like, how can I copy these girls so I can accomplish what they're doing? So yeah, it's kind of weird that I guess it's coming full circle now, but yeah, I mean, it makes me feel really good. And I've really enjoyed how I feel like everybody has kind of embraced the like fun doubles and different things that I like to try. And I think it's kind of inspired some people to maybe try different things themselves or really test what they can do instead of just kind of following the normal straight line path, which is awesome too, but it's fun to try some different things. So it feels really good. Yeah.
All right, that kind of segues me into the next question that we also had someone submit in. This is from 7 Egypt 29. What's your favorite event outside the multi events? And I feel like you do it all. So I feel like this is a really tough question for me to even ask you too.
I think it's an easy answer. For me, it's the 400 hurdles. I always kind of joke with my coaches that that's my favorite event in track. And they're like, kind of like shut up. And I'm like, no, that really is my favorite individual event. Like I like the heptathlon more. But if you ask me what my favorite individual event is, I would pick the 400 hurdles. So yeah, that's my answer.
I love that. Next question. This is from Gracie Jack 10. Would you ever run a 1500 like competitively?
I want to say no. Because, well, my coaches would never let me, so no. But if it was up to me, I definitely could be talked into it. I honestly think it would go worse than people think. Like people are always like, "Oh, I bet you could run this," and I don't agree.
Mhm.
But yeah, if my coaches weren't looking, I probably would do it.
Oh, snap. Okay. All right. Another question before I let you go. This is from Madeline._Taylor. And I feel like this person watches our podcast On the Line quite often because Ashley and I ask this all the time. What is your favorite pre-race song? I have to know. What's on the playlist for Anna Hall?
I would say what's always there? There's always Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift are always sprinkled in there.
Okay.
Like it is like a classic. Like that's how I get loose. But recently I've been on the Ice Spice wave. So
Interesting.
very different energies, but
Interesting.
yeah.
I love that. And one more question before I let you go, Anna. You know, a lot of our high school athletes, as I said, just admire you. What kind of words of encouragement or tips would you give to those athletes that really look up to you and they're like, hey, I want to be a multi-athlete, but also maybe run the 400-meter hurdles outside of what I do? What tips would you give them?
I think my biggest tip would be like, don't let anybody tell you like what you have to do or put you into a box of one thing. And if you think you can run and jump or do this and that, then you can do it. So yeah, that would be my biggest tip, and just be like a sponge to the sport. Like I remember, and still now I am like, there's a lot of people in track that I look up to, and you know, I study what they do, and it's not always about like, oh, I need to be different. I'm like, okay, what did like Jackie Joyner Kersey do in her this jump? Like, and I just try to emulate that. And I think being a student of the sport can take people a far way. So
I love that. Anna, thank you so much for your time today, and best wishes to you as you compete in Austria as well. And we're just wishing you all the best as you continue this season, and we're going to be keeping our eyes out for you. So thank you.
thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Olivia. Let's get to today's show. On today's show, we'll review this week's state championships. We'll talk Unbreakable national records and the California State Outdoor Championships, and then we'll end with a discussion on the RunningLane Track Championships in Huntsville, Alabama. But first, let's go to our state championship review from the weekend. No doubt the most jam-packed weekend to date, and arguably maybe for 2023. Top action, top moments. Let's get to it from around the U.S. Ashley, we'll throw it to you first.
Well, you guys know where I'm going to start my conversation. I'm going to take it to North Carolina, where we had state championships from 1A to 4A this past weekend. And I have to begin with what I think was maybe one of the big moments of the weekend, and that was Kayla Garrett in the 300-meter hurdles. We have a cool video, cool reaction that we put on our socials. She was just in awe here. At the 1A state championships, she runs 40.26, which is a North Carolina state record. U.S. number 7 all time in this event. She surpassed the previous state best that was set by Olympian Anna Cockrell back in the day, which was 40.42. And as you can see, she's just overcome with emotions, and you know, the crowd was cheering her on. This was her last state meet. She's going to be a freshman next year at the University of Texas. So it's such an incredible moment for her. She also won the 100-meter hurdles, the 400 meters, and contributed to a 4x4 winning relay team. So all around, great performance there at the 1A level. Now I have to shift to another big name too out of North Carolina, and that's going to be Shanti Jackson. And in the 2A state championships, she also got it done on the track, similar to Garrett, pulling off an incredible, triple here. She goes 22.7 wind legal to win the 200 meters at the 2A championships, and that's going to put her at U.S. number 2 this season, and it also broke the state record of 22.88. And then she also won the 100 in 11.33 and the 400 in 53.02. She won all these same events last year at the 4A level. So, she basically, she completes that sprint trifecta yet again in 2023. And then finally, I have to close it to, at the 4A level, the Cuthbertson girls, they continue to dominate day in and day out. 40 of the team's 75 total team points came in the distance events alone, which is, an incredible mark there. And they'd go on to win the the team girls title in a big way there at 4A. Looking at some of the top performers from that team, Charlotte Bell, she goes 2:08 to win the 800, 4:43 for a new state meet record in the 1600, and then Stella Kerms was second in the 16 and the 8. And, looking at that program as a whole, they won cross country, they won indoor and outdoor. So they were able to complete that three-peat there. So all around, North Carolina, some pretty impressive stuff.
We'll see some of those distance runners in Alabama this week. We'll get to that later. But Olivia, we'll push it to you.
Yeah, let's talk about Florida. We talked about it last week on the show, and I feel like we finally had the matchup that we've all been waiting for. The boys 2A 400 meters. 3 boys were under 47 seconds. Makai Danzy is the one that came up on top. Last year, he was the runner-up. This year, he's the champion. Here is the finish of that race. The top 4 boys in the state of Florida, all on this screen right now. Makai Danzy in the front with a 46:11 personal best. He also won the 200-meter title earlier and ran a 21:16, and on top of that he also long jumped, so he was third in the pit as well. Aiden Dixon, as you can see with the all white, he finished second with a very strong finish with the 46:71. Makai Gammons was third with 46:85, and then Javion Green from Mount Verde Academy was fourth with a 47:92. Next, we have to talk about Chris Johnson, who's also the Miami football commit. He competed and earned the 100-meter, 200-meter double. Here's that 200 meters as he came off that turn, looked so strong. He set a new 3A state meet record of 20.40 with a 1.7 win in the 200. His performance surpasses the previous record set by the Cleveland Browns receiver Anthony Schwartz, who is an athlete for American Heritage. And then Chris Johnson also won the 100 meters as well with a new all conditions best of 10:25, and that had a 2.5 win, so just over the liable limit. And another athlete I would like to talk about too, someone we haven't really talked about on the show yet, but her name is Rachel Uvagara, and she is a sprinter from Palm Harbor University. She earned the double in the sprints as well, won the 100 and the 200 with an 11:38 win legal performance and also a 23:22 just into a negative win. So I think she's going to be on our radar moving forward because she had great performances from this weekend.
I don't know if you remember this, but I said Chris Johnson would be the next Florida sprint star.
You
a
did?
while back.
Oh my
Remember
goodness.
this?
Here we go.
I guess you were right.
You are right, because he just had a super fantastic performance this weekend.
It was very good.
Yes.
Let's move to Colorado. The Outdoor State Championships took place this weekend. We had a load of great performances. All you can find that on Colorado MileSplit. But the overall MVP, I think we can all agree on, Tavon Underwood of Meade High School, Kansas State recruit, won the 200, 400, and the 800. Also finished second in the 100. I mean, his biggest performance, as we saw, was the 400, where he went 45.36 among very few boys in the U.S. that have gone under 46. And at Colorado, that means something because largely running at altitude there. 800, he ran 151. The 200, he ran 20.93. And the 100, he ran 10.67. And to be honest, I'm kind of amazed at the range of depth here. You don't typically see the 1 and the 2 guys running up to the 800. Sometimes the 4, but even that's a little bit of a reach.
The
So
800 is a reach.
yeah,
The fact that he did that is incredible.
And it isn't like he just was jogging the 800 either. He ran like 151, you know?
Yes.
So it's like that's
Yes.
an elite level time
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
Kansas State's getting somebody that's very interesting, I will say the least, to see what he does at the next level. The next storyline, I think, from a team standpoint, is obviously Niwot out of Boulder. State's most prestigious team, continues to dominate in the state in 4A, and they definitely had a good performance there. And then on the distance side, Emma Stutzman of Pomona. You can read a long-form feature by Bobby Reyes on Stutzman going into the state championships, but she won the 1,600 meters in 4:39.94 and the 3,200 meters in 10:12.68. And that is much to be expected from her. We all kind of saw her as a favorite, and she went out and she executed. The only other addition here is Madison Schultz out of Niwot, won the 400 in 55.7 and the 800 in 2:08.90. The 400 for me, a little surprising from her because I didn't think she had that leg speed, but props to you, really tearing it up at the state championships, and you won 2 state titles, so congrats to you. We got 2 more states. Olivia, I'm going to toss it to you.
Yes, so Tatum David of Olney Richland County, she just put on a huge show at the Illinois State Championships, and you can read more about it. Ashley did a fantastic job of writing the scoop this weekend, so you can read more about it. She is the University of Virginia commit, doubled in the 1600 meters and the 32. In the 3200 meters, she clocked a 9:53.96 for a new state meet record and solidified the victory with a 20-second win over the rest of the field. And in the 1600 meters, she cruised to a 4:49.37 to win that title by 11-second margin. So Tatum David just like putting the hammer down in the distance events in Illinois, just doing a spectacular job this weekend as well.
And then Ashley continuing the Carolinas.
Of
That's
course.
right.
What do you got there?
Got to round that out there. So let's talk about South Carolina real quickly. Bryson Miller out of Dorman. He's been the guy, kind of the breakout guy in that state this year. He clocks a new state record of 46.05 to win the 400 meters. He was also third in the 100 and second in the 200, and that came at the 5A classification last weekend. And then Nigel Ankrum of Spring Valley, he won the 100 and the 200 at the 5A championships, clocked 10:33 and then a PR of 20:69 the 200. Did not compete at these championships last year, but he bounces back this year and comes away with 2 wins.
I'm sure we'll see Nigel and Bryson later on in the national season. If you want to see any of those live replays of the state championships, just go to our state sites. They should have those on that state meet pages, and you can give those a look. Our next topic is going to be a fun one. It's very evergreen every year. The Unbreakable national records that still exist to us. What are some of our records that we feel like will never be broken, and maybe a little bit controversial in some ways, but we gotta talk about it. Olivia, let's start with you.
Yo, without a doubt, Allison Felix's 22:11 in the 200's not going down. I'm sorry. That was into a negative 0.5 win. And I'm just like looking at the record book, and that was immediately the first one that came into mind. And I just feel like, for argument's sake, I'm about to break some stats down. I'm going to be using win legal marks just to show you how difficult it is to even get remotely close to this time. So in high school history, all time, 25 girls have broken 23 seconds. 5 of those girls ran faster than 22:50 or faster. The next fastest girl to Allison Felix was Candace Hill, who went 22:43 into a slight negative win back in 2015 at the World Youth Championships. Now, I feel like there are potential girls who can get close, and some of them are still competing here today. There are 4 girls that come into mind. You have Mia Brahe Pedersen, Shanti Jackson, Madison White, and I'm going to throw Elise Cooper into this conversation. So Mia Brahe Pedersen, just a junior, has clocked the number 6 all-time performance of 22:61. Shanti, who's a senior going to Arkansas in the fall, ran 22:70 the weekend, literally this past weekend, as Ashley talked about, at her state championships. That's number 7 all-time. Madison White went 22:81 earlier in May, and Elise Cooper, who's, again, just a sophomore, went 22:93. And so just by looking at the history and just knowing that 5 girls have went 22:5 or faster, like, I just don't see 22:11 being broken.
So they will improve on those marks though this year, we think. What's the fastest we think some of these girls can get to this year? Not break it. The
way Mia Brahe Pedersen is looking right now overall with her season, I can see maybe 22:4. And the crazy thing is Mia's a junior, so just crossing our fingers that she remains healthy and strong, she could, like I said, could get close. But I don't see 22:11.
And the 200 seems more of her
strength,
her primary event, because she has basically the attributes to in that longer distance to pull away.
Yeah.
Okay. There is the Pan American, I believe, U20 championships this year. Do you think any of these girls make a run? No, hearing you say you can't break this record, do you think they'll make a run?
No.
Okay.
No.
Wow, Olivia. Wow.
No. Without a doubt, no hesitation. I hope you prove me wrong, but I'm 100% confident that
I do think they'll make a run at it.
They'll make a run at it.
Okay.
But 22:11?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's crazy. That is very, very good. You're going to be
insane.
Among the best in the world.
Yes,
to
in
get
the
that
world. Like, not just even high school.
Yeah.
World.
But some of the women in the world are running sub 22 though, correct?
That's true.
So you just have to get to that point.
You have to get to the point.
All right, Ashley, let's push it to you. What do you got?
All right. I don't know if mine's a hot take or not, but I feel pretty confident about this one here. But the boys' mile record, Alan Webb, 3:53.43. I do not think that is a mark that is going to get touched anytime soon, and I will explain why. I know that distance running has gone a lot faster. We're seeing more sub-4s more frequently within the past 2-ish years ago. But Webb has held this record for over 20 years. He set it at the Prefontaine Classic back in 2001, racing against the pros. And no one has even really come close to that mark in the years since. You know, the closest was Colin Solomon back in 2022, which also came at the Prefontaine Classic. He ran 3:56.24 for number 3 all time. Jim Ryan back in the day went 3:55. But looking more, only 4 guys alone in outdoor history have ever even broken 3:59. I mean, we've had a lot of guys in that 3:59 range, but below that, not too many. And that's 6 seconds back from that national record. So that to me just shows like just how insane that 3:53 mark was. You know, I think about a year ago, I actually had a chance to talk to Alan Webb about like, okay, why is everyone running, you know, sub 4 now all of a sudden at the high school level? And he talked a little bit more about his, you know, national record performance. And he himself was like shocked that he did that. So I think that would be a very hard record to get personally, even with like all the shoes and whatnot. I think that's one that could stay for a while.
The term that often stands out with these moments, Felix's moment, Webb's moment, a lot of others, is Beeman-esque. When Beeman long jumped that incredible mark, like 50 years ago, whatever, people largely kind of classified it in its own order because it was just so outside the norm.
Yeah.
I tend to agree here with Webb. No one kind of coming close to 3:53 and touching that. Do you agree?
I don't think it's getting touched.
Okay.
Maybe in like 20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
The issue I kind of see with this is that the closer you get to something like this, the more pressure and media you will encounter, which
makes it harder.
Defers sort of the potential, right? It does not help you when you get so much pressure put on you to go for this mark. And back in 2001, we didn't have social media.
No.
We didn't have sort of this mass media that's kind of, you know, profiling someone like Webb in that respect. You would get that if it were to happen again. Do you agree, Ashley?
Oh, it would be a huge firestorm. I mean, it would make it so much. Again, that's for a high school kid too. You got to think about that, all the pressure and the noise. It's kind of hard to shut that out in a world where you're just surrounded by it all the time. Yeah. So, but who knows? Again, maybe 20 years from now.
That's fair.
20 years.
20 years, maybe. Yep. All right, I'm going to say the boys shot put, the mark of 81.3.5, 12-pound weight, owned by Michael Carter back in 1979 at the Golden West Invitational in California, is the oldest record on file for national records. And, you know, right now, no one's really even close. Top indoor mark, Ryan Krauser, 2011, 77 feet. He's about 4 feet away from it. Top outdoor mark is 5 feet away from it. No one's ever touched 80 feet. Michael Carter did something on that day that will, I think, never be replicated again. And the crazy part about this is as the philosophy of the shot put now in high schools is that they're teaching the rotational technique. Michael Carter was a glider. Most coaches move off the glide really, really early for athletes, right? Because the technique is largely taught at the collegiate level, rotational. So he did something that just changed dramatically. But some of the reasons why he got to 81 is, you know, he told me in an interview recently at the Texas State Championships, a couple factors. One, super driven, super motivated just to do it. In his senior year alone, he broke the national record close to 10 times. Wow. It stood at 72 before the season. He broke that. He got it up to 77 by states. He won the state championships, but from what he said, there was a partition at the end of the sector that basically stopped his shot put from traveling any farther. So some of the sectors weren't even built to accommodate his ability. You know, when he went to Golden West, he talked to his girlfriend Sandra, who is now his wife, and Sandra said, "Throw 80 feet for me." And
mission accomplished.
Michael went out on his very last throw, and he threw 80 feet. So if anything is learned from this process, maybe you need somebody that motivates you to get to that level, that partner that's going to will you there. Michael went on to win an Olympic silver medal in the shot put. He won 3 Super Bowl rings for the San Francisco 49ers as a nose tackle, and he's largely considered one of the best track athletes of all time. So all good stuff there. Any thoughts? You think shot put's going to be broken?
No.
Never.
Ashley said never. She said for the mile, 20 years down the road.
Never. I mean, 81 feet, that's insane. And he did it with the glide. Like, I still can't get over that.
Yeah, that's what I think is mind blowing to me. Like the glide.
You need an athlete to one be able to kind of pursue that. You need a Zion Williamson, really.
Zion Williamson.
Pick shot put and then go out, train methodically over hours and hours and hours and hours. And I don't know if it's possible because you have those athletes largely are playing football, they're playing basketball, they're not picking shot put. So it
That's
is
true.
That is a bubble
Yeah.
in itself.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You need to have an athlete that's like solely driven and focus on that, which is awesome. All right, you guys, before we move on into our show, as we mentioned, this podcast is presented by Tracksmith. Tracksmith is an independent running brand inspired by the deep love of the sport after years of crafting running apparel from best-in-class materials, which we are all representing today. In the timeless silhouettes, they have made their first foray into footwear. And Corey, Ashley, and myself have tested out the new Elliott Runner, and we are completely obsessed, inspired by running on soft, springy, and responsive and natural surfaces. You can check out the new Elliott Runner today at tracksmith.com. Here we have Corey's amazing shoes on the desk. Corey, what are your thoughts on the new Elliott Runners?
Well, I think they look fantastic.
Yeah.
I think when you look at presentation aesthetic of a shoe, what you want to wear on your feet, on a given day, at work even, I mean, this shoe, amazing. It's amazing workwear. I think it looks great. I've worn it almost religiously over the last week at work. Yeah. So I have no complaints from it.
I love how they're like a gender style. Like it's not specifically for male or female. Like Corey has the shoes. Ashley and I are wearing ours. Like we love them. Ashley, you've also have some background in shoe stores. So just talk to us about what it means for you with this shoe as well.
Yes, many years ago, I worked at a shoe store in college over the summer. And so I've tried on my fair share of running shoes. But to me, comfort is key, and I immediately when I put on the Elliott Runners, I was like, wow, these feel really good on my foot. They're a good neutral shoe. They fit true to size. And I even took them on a little spin on the treadmill, and they felt really good underneath the foot. I am a huge fan. I will continue to run in them and get the miles on them. And then, Corey will wear them to work too.
Yeah, I think we all can safely say we are obsessed with these shoes. So definitely check out the new Elliott Runners, again, at tracksmith.com.
Good stuff there. Let's move on to our second to last segment here. It's the California Interscholastic Federation Championships. This weekend, final California meet of the season at Buchanan High School in Clovis, signaling an end to a very, very busy qualifying process for athletes in the state. What are the top storylines going into CIF? What could we see here, Olivia?
So I'm going to talk about a freshman, Kiera Daly of La Jolla. Can she win multiple titles this year? We had a chance to see her in person at the Champ Sports Cross Country Nationals in December. And what was so fascinating when Ashley and I had a chance to interact with her, she was like, both my parents competed at Foot Locker in the 90s. And the fact that she was running back, her parents were so proud of her. And even at the California State Championship, she was the runner-up during the cross country season. So I feel like this girl has been lighting up her freshman year. In the 400, she has 61 second speed. In the 800, she has 2:12 speed, and she actually ran that time to win the CIF San Diego Section Championships, and she even won the 1600 meters at that meet as well with the 4:42, and this year she's clocked 4:50 at Mount Sac. So she leads the freshman class actually in the nation in the 1600 meters and the mile. She has a 29th all-time performance in the mile for the freshman class and 10th fastest for the freshman for the 800 meters as well. So, Miss Daly over here, my eyes are set on her. I feel like she can really do some damage in that 1600 meters as well at the state level.
Going to be prelims and then finals, and she's going to have to go up against our lady Sadie.
Yes,
Sadie.
I'm excited. That's going to be a great race. Absolutely.
I think Sadie, this is her time.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's her time to sign. But I do like a good freshman story.
Yes.
Ashley, what about you?
For me, I think the top storyline has to be how fast is Roderick Pleasant going to go? He has been on a tear this season in the sprints out in California. Just last weekend at the Southern Section Masters Championships, he clocked a 10:14 win legal mark, and that ties his own all-time state record that he set back in 2022 as a junior. He's currently U.S. number 2 this season. And in my mind, I'm like, can CIF be the moment that he lowers that own state record of his? He went 10.09 wind aided at divisionals leading into Masters, so we know he has that speed. Just got to hope and pray that the wind is, staying intact there. And then even in the 200 too, if you look at the state record there, it's 2014, which was set by Michael Norman when he was a high schooler back at the Olympic trials. That one may be hard to get, but I could see Pleasant going after that too as well. He's gone under 21 seconds in the 200. 4 times this season, I believe, his last 4 competitions. So I could see where, in a perfect scenario, Pleasant could potentially get to state records this weekend.
State meet records are one to keep an eye on too, as we talked about before the show. 10.30 win legal is the state meet record in the 100. You seem assured that he's going to grab that.
Oh, I think that's like a solid hands down. He's going to get that. I think he could easily breeze a 10-3 if the wind's good.
Okay. Easily breeze.
Yeah.
Easily breeze.
10-3.
Easily.
I love that, Ashley.
Easily.
He is in fantastic form.
Yeah,
at the end of the season is exactly where it was last year. Now he just needs a little bit of a dip to reach that. State meet record in the 200 is 20.30 seconds by Michael Norman in 2015, who had probably the best sprint performance all time there in 15, 20.30, and 45.19 in the 400. The reason I say that is because Deshaun Stanley has an opportunity in the 200 and the 400 to go after titles. University of Utah commit has really dominated in the quarter this year. He's qualified out of the CIF Los Angeles City Section Finals a year ago. 8th in the 200, 3rd in the 400. It's the race here is in his wheelhouse. He will go up against Pleasant in the 200. We'll see what he can do because obviously Pleasant is the favorite. But this year, Stanley went 20.86 seconds. So he certainly could win. And in the 400, he's gone under 46. He's gone 45.92, tied for number 3. Number 1 in the state. Number 3 200 in the state there. So Stanley, really want to see if he can really replicate what Norman did in 2015. Could he go after potentially his 400-meter state meet time of 45.19? To be determined, but that will be a great storyline to watch. And all your content, California MileSplit this week, they're going to have previews for all the ladies and boys heading into the state championships, and then it will be live on MileSplit, so definitely check that out over the weekend too. Final segment of the day. Super looking forward to the RunningLane Track Championships in Huntsville, Alabama this weekend live on Miles, but it's going to be full of entertainment galore. We are super ready, and we just need to talk about it real quick. Ashley, let's start with you. What is your dark horse candidate to maybe become a star next year and who could potentially do really well here?
First off, I will say, very excited. I know you, myself, and Corey are going to Huntsville, and I'm a huge Huntsville fan, so I'm excited to return. But, looking at these fields, looking at these dark horses, one that really stands out to me is Hannah Stewart out of Canyon High School in Texas. And I know all 3 of us watched her at the 4A, classification at the UIL Texas State Championships, and she just absolutely dominated the distance events there. And I think she could surprise some people this weekend. She, looking at the state meet races, she really didn't have anyone to push her. I mean, she won these events by, I think she won the 32. She was lapping people there. She clocked 10:30 for 3,200 meters for a 4A state record there at that meet. And then she also ran 4:54 for 1,600. And so she'll be in those same 2 events, this weekend at RunningLane. And I think when she's in an environment where she's a lot of different, a lot of competition on a national scale where she has people to run with and to work off of, I think that could really push her potentially to some new PRs.
100%. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Hannah Stewart?
I'm actually a huge Hannah Stewart fan after, what was that, 2 weekends ago? Gosh, the weekends blend together. But just watching Hannah Stewart at the Texas State Championships was just mind-blowing. So I'm excited that she's going to be at RunningLane this weekend.
Who's your dark horse candidate for you to start next year?
My dark horse candidate, I'm going to throw it back to a freshman, Allison Johnson of Creekside out in Florida. And she's one of the top runners entered into the mile for this weekend at the RunningLane Track Championships. This girl has some foot speed, though, 2:15 for 800, and she's already clocked a 4:57 in the mile. And the thing is, that has been her only mile of the year. So over the weekend, actually, she won the 4A outdoor state titles in the 3,200 meters and the 1,600 meters with a new lifetime best of 4:54 there. So I talked about this on air with Ashley and with you too, Corey, like at the Texas State meet, like the athletes I felt like were setting those personal bests at their regional meet to go on to state levels. We saw amazing performances from there. So the fact that Miss Johnson has done that this past weekend, and she's looking to contest at Running Lane. I think she's going to shock a lot of people. So watch out for this freshman.
All right, 2 more before we leave. Got to give it up to the Big Ice Track Club out of West Virginia origins, Winfield High School. Braden Marshall, he won the 1,600 meters and 3,200 meters at the West Virginia State Championships recently in 4:16 and 9:21, but he's run 9 flat officially for the 3,200 meter distance, and I think here at Running Lane, he should be able to tackle that on the first day of action on Friday, which is the night of 3,200 meters. Saturday, going after the mile, end of the night, under the lights. We'll see if he can break 4:10. I think that's what most boys here are looking to do. He's got a lot of big potential. He was at Champ Sports Nationals last year in cross country. Certainly one of the best for West Virginia athletes. But can he get up to Josh Edwards' level by next year? I think that's sort of the standard by which all West Virginians now sort of look up to. So we'll see if he can get up there by next year. But I think he's going to be a star. And Ashley, you're a big fan of Big Ice, right?
Oh, of course.
Big Ice Track Club. We're going to see a lot of it this weekend. And then the second athlete, Rayleigh Hunt, just keep an eye out for out of New Mexico. Santa Fe, St. Michael's swept the 800 and the 1,600 meters at the New Mexico State Championships, 2:17 and 5:12 in the 800 and the mile. This is an opportunity for her to really face people she doesn't normally see. And then I think some of those walls can come down for some of her times. And so I think she could be one to watch next year. One last thing for both of you. Rocky Hansen, 800 meters now, right? 800 boys field is looking to be possibly the event of the competition. What do we think Rocky could run in the 800 or anyone else? We got Dawson Welch in the 800. We got Gottlieb in the 800. We got Michael Woolery in the 800. We got a lot of guys that really could possibly go after 150.
I think sub 150 for Rocky. 140, feeling 148. That's Bruin. 148.
Is he?
I'm thinking
Ashley.
maybe like a 149.
149?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a very, that's up at the elite level right there. So I think, and we've only seen 148 this season so far. Yeah. We could see it at Running Lane. Who knows? I would love to see that.
This is the atmosphere to do it.
But definitely sub 150 for sure.
Yes. That, hands down.
Brand new track, a lot of entertainment there. Rocky continues, I think, to, at least for me, surprise me on the things that he accomplishes, especially going after a 150. We don't see him at that distance very often. So for him to go after a really fast time, I think, is impressive in my book. And we'll be curious to see what happens. All right, Running Lane Track Championships going to be live on MileSplit. Live on YouTube on Saturday night will be the musical performance of Hello Sister. We're going to go YouTube. Make sure YouTube on MileSplit for that performance.
Be rocking on. Yes, I cannot wait.
So make sure to stay tuned for all that, and all the other content's going to be on milesplit.com this weekend. Thank you for watching another episode of On the Line. We'll be back next Tuesday to talk everything track and field. See ya.